Good. Rob, everybody good? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 23rd Newport News City Council and School Board work session. It's always a good time to be in Uptown, Vice Mayor.
Yes, it is.
Appreciate that opportunity. And to the school board, we really, anytime we get together is a good day for Newport News. Thanks for making the time. I know we have a lot to get into. And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Mitchell and Alan, if they want to say anything.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. And thank you all, both school board members and council members, for taking time out of your schedule to continue this important dialogue about how the school board and the Newport News City Council administration can all work together to advance our interest around education here in the city of Newport News. We have three topics that we prepared to share with you this afternoon. Dr. Mitchell and I and our respective staff will lead in some of the discussion, and we hope that we can set the stage for you all to feel free about asking questions at any particular time that you want to engage. It really is about a conversation as opposed to a number of presentations. So the first topic that we have for you this afternoon is the Southeast Community Resource Area, or SACRA, as we refer to this project. The schools and the city, both respective elected officials and staff, have been working long and hard on this project, and we thought it would be a good idea just to spend a few minutes with the city staff providing an overview of where we are in the project. So we'll have that brief by Craig Gallant, who's our Director of Engineering, and then following Craig, I will turn it over to the superintendent for her, along with her staff, to provide some comments on the school side. And then we can conclude and also facilitate responses to any questions that you may have. So, Craig, at this time, I would like to ask you to come forward.
And we'll just take a pause there. Dr. Best, I know this is important. SECRA is probably the top thing on your mind. If we missed anything, please let us know. Okay. Thanks, Craig.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right. As Alan said, I'm here to brief you on the SECRA project, which includes the Huntington Middle School and Recreation Center. And this is, it's been a long time coming. We're glad to see all the progress that's being made so far. But just a couple of things just right out of the gate. We started, or notice to proceed was given to the contractor back in June of last year. Now, the contractor couldn't start right away because of some permitting issues, but so shortly after that, a month or two after that, he started construction, and we see the fruits of the labor so far. As you may be aware, the high school itself, or I'm sorry, the middle school itself is 123,000 square feet approximately. The rec center is just a little bit over 97,000 square feet. The middle school itself is what has priority. So I just want to emphasize that right now. The contractor knows that, and we're pushing forward with that. And you'll see in some stats a little bit here that I'll mention. You'll go, well, how is it looks like they're the same. But the anticipated construction substantial completion date for the middle school is June of 2026. The substantial completion date for the recreation center is August of 2026. So there's a stagger there. But as you look below, you'll see that it looks like the percent completes for both are about the same, right? 36, 37%. Well, it all went out as one package, and we have one contractor. We've done it before and we had discussions on whether or not we should separate the two. Well, it's not a good idea to have two separate contracts on one site. We've learned that firsthand in some of our other projects that have created some issues. So in this particular case, what the contractor has also done, he actually has two separate teams, one for each facility. So that's why the percent completes are so much close to each other, is because they're working simultaneously on those projects. But just want to let you know, again, the middle school itself does have priority. And the contractor knows that. If we need to talk about, and we're talking about those things already, to make sure that we meet those dates. If something needs to shift then he can bring some of that workforce and that labor over there to the middle school if need be. So we're talking through those things now to make sure we stay on top of it. Just a couple other things to mention as far as what's going on status-wise. Interestingly enough, we ran into 3 buried storage tanks on the site, and that was on the existing school site that we hit those, which will now be where the new rec center is going. So we've had to remove those, mitigate the soil and condition that area right now, so we're hopeful that we don't run into any more buried unforeseen conditions in that. Just a couple critical path items that we have on the slide here that we're talking about. One is bringing power to the site along with the transformer, and that's the responsibility of Dominion. And we've been coordinating with Dominion since before last winter on this particular issue. We did get confirmation as recent as yesterday that they actually have the transformer. They procured it and they have it in their possession, so that's ready as soon as we get the site prepped for the transformer. The other piece of that Dominion has to provide for us is the design information for that. They're going to give that to the contractor, then the contractor assesses and evaluates what we have from the electrical system, and they're supposed to give that to us this week sometime. So we should be good on that, but that's one of the critical paths. The other is just the stormwater infrastructure on the site that he has to work with between the 2 facilities, and then the structural steel assemblages on both facilities as well. The other item that I wanted to mention, we've been collaborating with schools throughout the entire process of this project. And that goes back to all the way from design and through bid and construction as well. So we have a construction progress meeting every 2 weeks, and schools is involved in that construction process meeting and project meeting as well. But on top of that, we're continuously also coordinating with other things that are mentioned here on the slide, that finishes, furnishings, equipment, anything else that we can think of. So in addition to that 2-week progress meeting that we have, we're on the phone with schools, coordinating with other issues that they may have to make sure we're all set and ready for when that June date ends, that they can pick it up and take it from there. And that's the reason we want that date in June, is so that school has that time to do all the other things that they need to do to button it up before school starts. If you've been out to the site or haven't, the things that are ongoing right now with the contractor, he is installing the exterior walls. And like I said, it's great to see the progress that's being done right now. So the exterior walls, the interior CMU walls, and you've got the structural steel going up on the various floors, along with the roof and the roof deck. All right, so, but then the next steps as we move forward with the contractor is going to be focusing on is setting those rooftop units when he gets those, setting those rooftop units, and then also in lieu of that, coordinating all the electrical work that needs to be done for the project and the both facilities there. Moving on, he will be still continuing with the stormwater infrastructure work, the exterior doors and the windows, as well as the exterior walls and so forth as well. If you can see the bottom table on the slide there, we're looking at, that's the total project cost. So for the school itself, we're looking at $77 million. For the recreation center, $67 million. And then the last column, though, is just showing where we are in the way of change orders for each of the projects. So the school's at 2.4%, and the recreation center's at 1.5%. So that's all I have for an update, if there's any questions.
I'll defer to the school board, Madam Chair. I'll let school board go first, and then if there's any from City Council.
Board members, any questions? No questions.
City Council.
Thank you.
Craig, I have a few questions.
Sure.
So I know we're talking about June and August timeframe. Is there anything that's going to happen that could prevent, like, the kids going back to school fall of next year? Anything at all?
There
few.
was always that potential.
Okay.
Right? I mean, we're still dealing with steel issues, things getting done. Sometimes, like, and for instance, the contractor has been instead of submitting full packages for the steel, they're not full packages, and that makes it difficult and challenging. There's been a lot of reiteration and resubmittals and so forth, but we've actually had to go out, and the reason we have some of these change orders is to expedite some of the things to make sure the contractor can order them now instead of waiting, and on the electrical side of things too, with some of the electrical components, to make sure they have that in place. So we had some issues. I told you the underground storage tanks that we had. It didn't affect schools, but we could, who knows what we could run into that we're not aware of. We got through the foundation stuff, so we're good there. It would just be a matter of if we run into procurement of various elements as we move forward in the design that aren't available right away, we could go, what do we do? And that's why we're going to try to make sure that we put some things in place where that constant coordination with the contractor and schools, make sure we're well aware of it. And if there is an issue, let's say worst case scenario, we're saying something happens and we can't start in September unless we do something. Let's say there's electrical components that we can't get right away. We're talking right now about what can we put in place, generators, for instance, or something like that until we get the components that are necessary so that we can actually start on that date.
No, that's perfect.
Mr. Mayor, just a comment. We will have a contingency plan. We're praying for the best, but preparing for whatever. So we will have a contingency plan as well.
That's helpful. And I know that, thank you, Craig. I know there's been other discussions about a potential change to busing, whether it's downtown or just as those conversations happen, just let us know if we can help with any way. I know when I'm out in the community, I hear that a lot about, will this new middle school, will it change any of the existing bus routes? I know that we're already stretched as a city, so anything we can do to help, just please let us know.
We will. Thank you.
Anything else? Thanks.
At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Rusty Fairhart to come forward. He is our Chief Operations Officer, and he has worked closely with the city in terms of the Huntington Middle School project. And I've asked Rusty just to come forward to speak a little bit about the work that we've been doing to get ready when the students do enter the new school. Thank you, Mr. Fairhart.
Good evening. I'd just like to echo Craig's comments about our collaboration with the city on the project. They've been very upfront with us, very transparent about potential issues. And I think we've been able to resolve some of those on the front end. Certainly, I appreciate his response also about could something happen that would prevent us from opening. In this world, something could always happen tomorrow, and as Dr. Best indicated, we are prepared for worst case scenarios, et cetera. From the school side, what's different from the project is what we've been doing internally. The first is we have a furniture committee, so we partner strongly with our instructional team. So we identify furniture for not only the common classroom space, but also for some of our specialty places, CTE, et cetera. So we're close to finalizing our furniture request. We also, last week, came about 99% to finalizing the color palette. The only thing we're waiting on is the final sample of the terrazzo that's going to go in the common areas. Once we see that, we're going to give them, the architect, to go ahead to provide the samples to the contractor so they can move forward there. And then I think our last project is graphics, and we're working closely with the alumni to ensure that the history of Huntington is represented in the new building. And that's going to be our opportunity to make sure that we showcase the past and also give an opportunity for our future students to show the future. So we're excited, we're proud of the partnership, and so far so good, and we hope that everything continues to move along the path that it has. So.
And Mr. Fairhart, I will just add, as Mr. Fairhart mentioned, that we've been working with the Huntington alum. We know how important this school is to this particular community. And we did have a moment of levity where somewhere along the line, the color of yellow started showing up with Huntington. We very quickly understood and learned that those were the colors of the rival. And therefore, there will be no yellow, no outline, no anything. It will be the Huntington blue and white.
Yes, exactly. If we can find out what the Huntington blue is.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Fairhart. Are there any questions for Mr. Fairhart?
Request for floor? Yes. A lot. I mean, Dr. Mitchell just mentioned that we have a good amount of folks who are excited about Huntington Middle School. That being said, how are we planning collaboratively to communicate that with the public from a comm standpoint? So people don't know on a regular day basis what progress, or even the report that we're getting right now, as long as we are in communication about that, I think that's going to be extremely helpful.
So I can't speak for the city, but I can speak for the school division. So if you go to our website, we have a Huntington website, a webpage dedicated to Huntington Middle School, the new middle school, and we have an archive of folders that we update every month. We provide the board an update, and subsequent to the board meeting, we update photos, future milestones, past accomplishments for the month prior. So we have a very transparent mechanism to inform the public about our progress on the project.
Okay.
And I will say that I am very pleased to say that our communication departments between the city and our school division have been working hand in hand. More so, I mean, they always have worked hand in hand, but we've almost seen like a real strong uptick where they are working hand in hand together. So when time is ready, I know that we will roll out collaboratively together some really good stuff where the community will be aware of what's happening and when.
And Mr. Bethany, if I misunderstood your question, maybe it's around ribbon cutting potentially. And I think that that's the time for us to really come together.
So not necessarily, I'm more so thinking about like a social media strategy. But I think Dr. Mitchell also mentioned,
departments
correct.
are working
Correct.
closely together, yes.
And also, I wanted to add, we've had several South District community meetings, and we always update the citizens throughout the meetings. Even on the trolley tour, we had several people with from the Huntington family, so being able to keep them abreast in the community meetings as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fairhurst.
I think Alan's got one.
Just one final thought before we really get ready to celebrate the opening of the school. The superintendent and I have been talking about some of those core components that allow us to enjoy the many spaces that are available for co-programming. And so this entire complex will allow for a variety of activities both on the city side, on the school side, and also from other organizations. So this is a good time for us to start talking about what kind of agreement allows us to really focus on the coordination, the collaboration, and the communication flow. So we're very, very clear about those spaces that are the responsibility of certain entities, and what is the scheduling, what does the scheduling entail for someone to use those spaces. We're beginning to, it's really important for us to start to get start to lean into that a little bit so we can have that structure in place that makes it seamless once the school opens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I'm going to ask Dr. Kip Rogers, who is our academic chief officer, to come today. He's going to share some of the results of some of our academic work that we've been doing, not only this year, but the previous year as well. I think it's important for me to share that at this time, the state has not provided the accountability designations, if you will, school by school. They are still working on additional calculations. So I would say to City Council, if you are interested in particular schools, to work with your counterparts as you have your 2-on-2 meetings. But we are hopeful that the school-by-school data will be shared with us pretty soon by the Virginia Department of Education. So today, Dr. Rogers is going to share the district data as we have been able to really take a look at that, and we kind of know where we are in terms of the district as a whole.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. Good evening, Mayor, council members, school board members, and of course, Dr. Mitchell. So this afternoon, I think, this afternoon, I think I messed up the fancy slides. Let's see. All right. There we go. All right, so this afternoon, I will just give you a brief update in terms of where we are with our SOL data based on the information that we have available to us, and that was released via the Virginia Department of Education most recently. And I want to paint a little bit of context. I know you have the slide presentation in front of you. I've also shared with you in your folder, there's a brief summary, an overview of where we are with our SOL data and in comparison to our peers that you can review at your leisure absent of this meeting. So I want to paint a little bit of context first to talk about like what's new. I think the last time I spoke with you all before, I shared with you that the Virginia Department of Education has embarked upon a new accountability system that merges accountability and accreditation. So accreditation is no longer what it used to be. Accreditation is more so a check the box. Have you met the responsibilities that's associated with our SOQs, our standards of quality? While accountability is more a measure of where students are in terms of academic mastery, where they are in terms of growth, and where they are in terms of being ready for whatever it is after they leave public education. So it's a combination of those three. What I wanted to paint context with that many of us that are not in public education aren't so much aware of is that this past year, not only did we have new standards in English and in math, but students were also tested on those new standards in English and in math. And normally, when the State Department has a change in standards and assessments, you have what we refer to as a little bit of a gap year or crosswalk here, so you get to teach both standards from the old and both from the new, recognizing that you won't be assessed in the same year. So that's a little bit different for us all across the state. So I just wanted to paint that context. Now, the good news is even with those adjustments in the newness of the standards in English and in math across the state, we did not see the normal dips that you would see, or a new baseline is what we like to refer to it, as a result of new and more rigorous data. So the chart that you see in front of you reflects the last 2 years since Dr. Mitchell and I have been in Newport News relative to student performance in English, math, science, and social studies. And what you know, if you look at the far right column, that's the change since 2022 and 23. And you'll note, you see mostly green. We're most proud of what you see in science. We saw double-digit gains, and what you don't see are the breakdown in terms of grade. And where you see the double-digit gains in science is where we placed our most emphasis. Right now, we're at about 58% of our schools that have been identified via the old method of being accredited without conditions. And I need to be very clear, all of our schools are accredited. We have some that are accredited with conditions, and we have some that are accredited without conditions. The unfortunate thing is we have 6 schools that were accredited without conditions as a result of 3 or less students not passing the science SOL test. Ouch. So that's why we focus on all of our students when we try to reach them. But we're extremely proud of the work that our schools have done, given all of the newness that's in place. And what you find is that the scores that you see are pretty much commensurate across our region, and certainly with our peer group that we're most often in Newport News compared with, and that's Norfolk, Richmond, and Petersburg. And Newport News and Watts. I'm sorry, Norfolk, Richmond, Petersburg, and Portsmouth are most often we're compared with. So this is pretty much where we are with our data. Of course, when you look at math at the middle school level, especially in 7th grade, is where we have our greatest opportunities for improvement. All right, so what are we doing about it? So the school board is embarking upon a new strategic plan to 2020-30, and they've charged us with a pretty lofty goal, and that is to make sure that we are working toward having at least 90% of our students in grades 3 through 5 demonstrate proficiency on the SOL test. 3, 4, and 5. You may not ask, well, what about pre-K through 12? Well, if you address 3, 4, and 5, that gets to the crux of what you need to do in order to prepare in 5 years students in pre-K 1, K1, and 2 to be prepared for end-of-year assessments. And those students in 3, 4, and 5 will also be prepared when they get in high school, as well as in middle school to meet those expectations. So I want to just walk you through some of the things that we're doing to prepare all of our students to meet that expectation. There are 5 general buckets, and that's first, build strong foundations. 2, supporting teachers for impact. 3, tiered school support. 4, focusing on student intervention. And 5, leadership that sustains growth. So First, number one, in a nutshell, we've been focusing the last couple of years, at least since I've been here, is making sure that we have strong and tight alignment between curriculum, instruction, and assessment. So with all of the new, I'm extremely proud of the work that the team has done, and it certainly benefited us, as evidenced by our data. Supporting our teachers for feedback, we have a strong emphasis on making sure that we provide teachers good quality feedback on whether they are a seasoned teacher, whether they are a new teacher, a guest teacher, or an associate teacher. Third, we certainly make sure that we are tiering our school level support, and it's by need. All of our schools are in different places, and we ensure that we do that through coaching. And fourth, we're focusing on student intervention and ensuring that we tier the interventions, especially for our middle school students. And I want to go back to number 3. You'll see on the 4th bullet, we've partnered with an organization called Educentric, and we partnered with them to work with 24 schools that have been identified to benefit from more intensive support. And we met with 12 of those schools. We actually just ended their second full day of training and preparation for their, what's called a flight plan. It's a school improvement plan. But each school had 5 or 6 members of their team, and they've begun that deep work to ensure that they have a tight school improvement plan for the remainder of the year. So I'm excited about that work. We meet with the other 12 schools on Thursday and Friday. And then lastly, leadership that sustains growth. We have ongoing professional development to build our cadre of principals and assistant principals who in turn are supporting our teachers. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, or if y'all want to.
Dr. Rogers,
Yes.
before you open up for questions, if you could share just a little bit about our graduation rate.
I missed that,
You
and I
did
intentionally
miss
put
that.
that on the side, trying to look to the
And I
side.
do
Yes.
want to make sure that everyone in the room and all of our viewing audience is aware that when you are in high school, you have to pass the
Right.
test
Right.
versus middle and high in order to be promoted to the next grade. So for example, if you're a 3rd grade student and you do not pass the 3rd grade SOL, you can still be promoted to 4th grade. But in high school, you have to pass the assessment. And in order to graduate, you have to have a certain number of verified credits. You earn those verified credits by passing the class and passing the assessment. So I didn't want, Dr. Rogers, us to go without sharing the increase in our graduation rate as well as the decrease in our chronic absenteeism.
Correct, and that's something I probably should have shared first because I had it on the slide. So one of the things that we do in public education that we work toward the end and preparing kids to, to graduate and to be successful, whether they decide to enter a career, university, military, or whether they just want to take a gap year to figure out what they'd like to do. Well, in 1 year, we improved our on-time graduation rate in 4 years from 93% to 97% of our students graduating on time. And that's a testament of what's going on in the school, so I'm extremely proud about that. I don't know how I missed that.
I don't know how you missed it either because it's one of the highest in the region.
Yes.
Okay, graduation rates.
Absolutely.
Chronic absenteeism, Dr.
Oh,
Rogers?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was waiting until that got kicked over here.
Chronic absenteeism has certainly been reduced as well, and I believe that went from 21% to 18%, if I'm not mistaken.
And we also received some recognition at the Virginia Department of Education because of
Our
the work,
creativity with
creativity,
addressing chronic absenteeism.
in changing chronic absenteeism.
And just chronic absenteeism is identified as students who have missed at least more than 10% of the school year at any given point in time.
And we have been asked to do a presentation at for the Virginia School Board Association around the work that Newport News has done, not only on graduation rates, but on reducing chronic absenteeism.
Correct. That's great.
I have a question. You talked about the new standards. So it's going to take a year, 18 months to kick in. What are you estimating for the new standards to actually be put throughout all the school systems?
So we're implementing them now.
Okay.
So yes, so they're being implemented now. One of the again, one of the challenges that we were faced with in Virginia is not having the luxury of having the opportunity to teach the standards for a year before they were assessed. So they were taught and assessed
In
at the
last year.
same time.
Same time.
Okay. And not to get, this is not like a curveball question, I just wanted to have some open dialogue. I know there's been a lot of discussion about whether it's federal laws or state, depending sort of who's in office, about the rise in charter schools, vouchers, et cetera. Do you foresee that decreasing our enrollment? Are there any schools or areas that we should be concerned about?
So I can't really speak to that right now. I know we work very hard to make sure that we attract and retain families who are not currently enrolled in our school division by making sure we provide access and opportunities to unique things that may not otherwise be offered to students who are not enrolled in our schools.
And Mr. Mayor, I will share with you that we have been able to reclaim a number of families that were homeschooled. They have come back to us this year, and they've been very pleased. And Dr. Rogers, I know you weren't prepared to discuss this because we just received the data, but as you talked about the organization that we're partnering with, where we're working closely with over these last few days, some surveys had gone out to parents.
Yes.
And so if you could just share a little bit about the results of how parents are feeling. And we had a high response rate, but how parents
Yeah, we
are
had
feeling.
at least 90% of, so we have 48 schools that received the survey that went out to parents and it went out to staff. And of that 48%, 48 schools, we have 24 schools that got individual surveys, and then the other 24 schools, it went out to everyone. Well, of the 24 schools, we had almost 1,000 parents respond to the survey, and 90% of them were overall pleased with what's happening in Newport News Public Schools. So that was very encouraging. We just reviewed that actually today. So.
And it was broken down. It talked about the curriculum. It talked about rigor. It talked about safety. It talked about the level of communication that the schools had with families, and the results were very promising. They were in the 80s and 90s.
Yes.
And may I say something as well? Regarding the enrollment numbers, our numbers, percentage-wise, they are compatible with those across the state, actually across the country, because across the country, there's a slight decrease in the number of students that attend public schools. It's been that way since COVID. But we are not, like, alarmingly dropping the numbers or anything like that.
No, I appreciate that. And I'll turn it over to Councilman Coleman. I just know, you listen to NPR and, they say a lot of schools are closing because people are choosing different things. I know in Virginia there's been a push toward charter schools. So just wondering if there are any schools that we're, potentially taking a look at. Rob.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I just wanted to comment on your improvement when it comes to chronic absenteeism. I had the privilege of being at your last school board meeting and then also at our public safety committee meeting where we heard about the amazing things you were doing, not only with chronic absenteeism, but with mental health services in the schools and that coordinated effort, the attendance teams that you've created that are helping with getting our kids back in the school. And I will tell you, I think it has a direct effect on the significant reduction in crime that we've seen in the city over the last 2 years, because usually you have a straight line from chronic absenteeism and truancy to crime rates. So I know it takes a village, it takes a team to make it happen, but I think that had a tremendous impact on where we are today when it comes to public safety. So thank you.
Of course. Mr. Mayor, with me.
I want to say looks good that made double-digit gains for science and math for elementary school, science across the board. I'm just wondering, is there anything in the budget that you could attribute those gains with? And will we start seeing that with the middle and high school with the math gains?
Yes, and we anticipate, the first question was budget-wise in science, correct? So, yes, one of the things that we noted with science a couple of years ago, there was a little bit of misalignment between curriculum, instruction, and assessment, and we poured all of our internal resources into that. We spent funds to bring the community in with an initiative we call SciPack, and we sent hands-on science kits home with students in grades 5 and grade 8. and I believe they went home maybe 3 times a year. So it was just a really concerted effort to ensure that we didn't have 6 schools that were not being identified as being accredited without conditions because just of a full of students. So what we found out is that students needed more time to have hands-on, minds-on opportunities to work with science. And so we spent some additional money on resources to have some hands-on activities with that. We're thinking about doing some things a little differently this year in terms of staffing. We lost one of our key staff members in science. He decided to retire, and we'll have to replace him. Relative to your second question, remind me?
Yeah, so the second question really is, what did you've already explained what you did in the science world to get the double-digit gains. What I'm hoping is you'll take that same method to apply for math to get those double-digit gains, and just seeing where the resources need to be.
Well, math builds, and math doesn't necessarily start in like grade 6 or 7, 8. It really starts in pre-K when we start talking about the language and teaching students that it's not the plus sign, it's the addition sign, or it's multiplication, or it's the divisor. So it starts really at elementary school and it pours into middle school. And because of the adjustment in the standards as well as the curriculum in of itself and the resources that we have available to us, it's tough. It's a little bit of a challenge. And one of the issues that we see is that teachers particularly don't have the background knowledge in math. So we found ourselves having to, with our math plan, is making sure that we always do some pre-teaching with teachers and giving them the opportunity to come. If you have to teach students how to add and subtract fractions, let's come in, bring them in. Most of it's optional, and some of it's not. And teach you how to teach this unit, so when you get in front of students, you're very well prepared and you're confident about being able to teach those math skills that you weren't as comfortable with.
All right, thank you.
And I was a math tutor in college, so I might come and help out. I do have a question.
I'll take you up on that offer.
I'll swing by, I promise. The question I have is, I know this is probably more relevant for your 8th graders and up, but I really think for this generation, AI is going to be like the next thing, whether it's AI is taking the entry-level jobs or AI is being used to disrupt education. I know a lot of colleges, secondary schools are like forming an AI plan. Have we started or done like task force about that? We'd love to hear more about that.
We do. We have a task force that spent the better part of last year developing our plan for how we're going to approach AI, and it has absolutely come up time and time again on how we handle it. We've not rolled it out to our staff just yet. As a matter of fact, our senior staff will receive a presentation in the next week or so. We're ready to share that and roll that out to our staff and to our students. And pretty much it provides guidance on how to leverage it, and it doesn't shy away from it. But it provides guidance on what is and what is not appropriate. How do you use it full out? How do you use it as a thought partner? How do you use it as the check to make sure that your information is accurate or not? But it is absolutely something that is on the table. We're just ready to share it with our senior staff, and we will in turn share it with our board.
That's helpful, and I would say for a combination of the schools and for the city, I know we're doing a lot of, we're spending a lot of money on like new AI-enabled tools. There's probably some synergy or some collaboration. I know there's a lot of companies that are trying to come into the schools and the city, so we can probably sit down and put our heads together there, Alan.
That'd be great.
I do want to add one or two additional things. While we don't have the school-by-school information, I think it's important for us to share with you that we have made great growth in individual schools as well.
Oh, yes.
And I'll just speak to one little nugget and to say one of the questions that was asked, basically how do we replicate what has been done and successful in some schools. So for example, we put a plan in place at Newsom Park, a very intentional plan, a very time-consuming and rigorous plan for some of our people from central office. But in 3rd grade reading alone, their 3rd grade reading scores increased by 23%. So we will take that plan, we have taken that plan, and we are replicating that in other schools. So I did want everyone to know that. And then the other thing I think is important for our general public to know, as well as everyone here, is we have a lot of phenomenal partnerships that are happening within the city. I did ask principals to provide us with a list of every partner that their school has. We have 444 partners, from businesses, from faith-based organizations. So our community is very supportive. They are going to do what they need to do to help us. We are strengthening our partnerships with Peninsula Community College, as well as Christopher Newport and Hampton University. And I think the last thing that I would add is that there's this misnomer that people do not want to come and teach in Newport News Public Schools. And that is not true. We have a large number of teachers that were hired this year, and many of them came from surrounding school districts because they do know that we provide strong professional development for our teachers, and we do a lot. Good pay. And our pay is higher than our surrounding neighboring districts, and we have received great feedback from teachers that have come from other districts. And certainly, not knocking other districts, but they like to take our teachers, and they're quick to say, other superintendents are quick to say, Newport News trains their staff very, very well. So we have teachers that have come with experience from the surrounding districts have come to Newport News, and we're quite happy to have them.
Absolutely.
Madam Chair, I just want to add one question for clarification. I think it was helpful to me and hopefully helpful to the public, that I think it's really important to understand. So could you talk again about, because we made a shift in terms of the framework from fully accredited, conditionally accredited, accreditation denied, to distinguished, on track, off track, needs intensive support. And so making those connections in the translation between how we're transitioning to that and how everyone needs to get their minds wrapped around what the new accountability framework actually is, and understanding the language. And when we talk about, we're no longer talking about accredited schools, we're talking about the distinguished on-track schools.
So yes, Mr. Brown, thank you for sharing that. So there are two terms, accountability and accreditation. I shared that accountability is now more like a check the box kind of thing. Is your classroom ratio, what is this expected to be? We'll have to check the box on that to be accountable for that. Accreditation now is a combination of student mastery, and that's the first time students have the opportunity to take an assessment. It's based on growth. So for example, if a student got a 350 on a reading SOL test as a third grader, then in fourth grade, the expectation is that they have a year's worth of growth. What that is, we don't know, and that's what we're waiting for the state for. So for example, if the student got a 385 the second year, there's a mathematical equation that we don't know just yet how that impacts growth, that accounts toward a point system that's in addition to the mastery, passing, and the growth. And then you have the readiness, which includes absenteeism for elementary students, as well as absenteeism and growth. Absenteeism and growth, I think that's what it is. At the high school level, it's a little more complex because we call it the 3 E's. So it's enrollment, enlistment, and I'm losing the other E. Employment, yes. Yeah. So it's a pretty complex point of value system. So the goal is, and it's bad to say, students, schools that get 80 points or above are deemed on track, and below you have a couple of other designations. Above a certain point value, you're designated as distinguished. So there are 4 different designations that are based on a pretty complex point system. Right now, we are waiting for the state to share what that calculation is to determine growth, because we have the mastery already, figured out, as well as the other pieces. We're just waiting on that growth piece to determine that.
And so we can't say right now, because the state has not put out the full reports on where we actually are.
Correct.
And that, it should be released, but it hasn't been released.
It hasn't. And the other piece that I think we need to be aware of is that right now the cut scores are set at a certain level, and right now this conversation, as a matter of fact, there's a meeting tomorrow to talk about where those cut scores are. So for example, in 4th grade reading, the cut score for students to pass would be at 400. Right now there's language to propose that cut score be significantly different. I think it's like 460 something in order for a student to be deemed as being proficient. So the goalposts are changing periodically, and we're just kind of waiting to see what those measures are. And the reality of it is Those changes could change again later this fall.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our final presentation this afternoon is a discussion of the city's budget preparation cycle. One of the conversations that occurred at our last joint meeting was to try to reach some greater alignment around the city's budgetary cycle and the school's budget cycle, and where were there opportunities for us to hone in on some of the funding issues and do a better job of understanding school needs as the city considers its annual operating budget. So I have a slide that was in your package. I'll focus on the annual budget development calendar for the city of Newport News. Thank you. And this is the calendar that the administration shared with our city council when we had our city council retreat in July, which is a modification of the work that we have been doing over the years. Essentially takes into account the increased focus that we have developed around receiving input from the community as the city administration prepares its proposed operating budget. And it also makes a number of adjustments to the CIP schedule. But beginning in July 25, you see the key areas in which the budget advances, beginning with council setting priorities, to the city staff releasing the budget message and instructions to our employees in September. And then in October and November, the budget department submission review process begins. We also start to receive applications of community support from organizations across the city. We then begin to develop our preliminary revenue estimates in December. We actually begin the process of departmental budget hearings with all of our city departments, to include constitutional offices, in January. This year we have built in some time for in-person and virtual town hall pop-up meetings before the city manager delivers the recommended budget to council no later than the second council meeting in the month of March. And then we essentially have between that second meeting in March and what is typically our budget adoption target, which is the first meeting in May, to receive community input at the public hearings, and also for city council to have work sessions to consider input and provide further guidance to the city administration. So this is sort of an overview for you. Key steps are outlined in blue, action items are outlined in yellow, and this kind of leads into the next area of opportunity that the superintendent and I have had some conversations about. And so if you go to the next slide, please. You'll see a box, and the box really is a request on behalf of the city that the city administration and school administration work closer to try to receive the school's funding request no later than mid-January. That's about a 30-day advance on what has been the schedule with regard to funding requests from the schools. And you know what I've encountered in my role since serving as a manager is that oftentimes the school administration puts a lot of effort into the work product that they deliver, but we have a difficult time receiving that product and having thoughtful discussions about it because of the rapidly advancing time frame that I'm required to meet by city code in order to deliver the proposed annual operating budget to council. So I recognize that there are many factors on the school side that drive when you feel comfortable providing that information. My request would be if we could somehow work to get it within the box, preferably no later than mid-January, but earlier if we can than mid-February.
And I would say just two things sort of added on, but I think not one person, but I think this new council as a body, we've backed up with the vice mayor, we've backed up our city council retreats, and so we've been pushing it to the left so that we can have more informed community discussion. And so if you're able to also back up your timeline, I think that allows for just more discussion on our end. There's sort of two caveats. About a year ago, we talked about the potential, if you are interested, I think we're sort of neutral on city council, but a lot of cities are going toward like a funding formula. We're not for or against, we're just like very open to having that conversation. So one, I wanted to create that space. Number two, this is Councilman Long's purview, but I know we pushed with Jerry about the, what's it called, Cleon, the school tax, the school construction.
Yeah.
Can you speak more about that at the General Assembly?
You're referring to the 1% on sales tax for school construction?
Exactly. So I think one of the biggest things in Virginia is, whether it's Dillon rule or whatever, the school board does not have the power to tax. I think if we're doing schools construction, you should have the power to tax as long as people agree to it. And so I know in our legislative package, we're going to push, I think the school board should have the right to say, if we need to have more construction, then there should be a tax, et cetera. So I know Jerry's already prepared that, but those are the two things. That's sort of around the budget is, let's push the timeline a little bit to the left. Is there an appetite for a formula? If so, just let us know. And then number two would just be, hopefully this thing gets passed in the long session in Richmond where the schools are able to say, hey, we need to do more work on Warwick or Minchville or Denby, and then you're able to have the tax put to the citizens on the ballot.
Any questions, board members?
So, yes,
Mr.
Madam
Brown.
Chair. I would just like to make a couple of observations, not necessarily any, just things for consideration. So I believe that we did over the last 2 years or so, jointly we worked together on the 1% sales tax, and I think that this is a great opportunity for us to do that again. I personally really do like the idea of the revenue formula. I think that that's probably the best path forward, especially given the timeline that you want, because having the revenue formula allows it's easier for us to do more planning, and just because there's a revenue formula there, so it becomes easier in that process. The only additional observations that I'd like to make in terms of what I've experienced, being on the board, and why our budget cycle is the way that it is a lot of times we're penalized for getting our homework turned in on time. And what I mean by that is other school divisions watch when we do our budget, and then they intentionally do their budget after hours, raising salaries, increasing stipends for certain positions and things like that to put us at a competitive disadvantage. So earlier adoption of our budget, I've seen historically, has put us at a disadvantage competitively because they just wait for our budget to pass and then go do higher. The other just observation and consideration that I would add in is oftentimes we don't know what the state, so our budget is very dependent upon what the state numbers are going to be, and we're waiting for the general session to end and for the state numbers to come in, so it's not an issue of us. I think earlier we're ready, we've planned it out, right, but we're still waiting on numbers to come in from the state before we can really tie things up. And then we've had over the last 2 years, we had to come back and vote again. Well, I don't think the last 2 years, I think it was 2 years ago we had to vote, twice we had to vote again because after the state still wasn't even done, after we had to turn it in, and then we had to go back and vote again because the numbers from the state changed around and were different. So I think there's some, I'm not gonna call them legal, but I think there are some mechanistic constraints as to why our budget is the way that it is. But I will just say observationally, I think that revenue sharing formula is the best path forward for us to try to speed things along. I think that supports very much so us being able to speed up our budget.
Mr. Brown, you took the words out of my mouth. Last year, we did not know until December 18th in terms of our funding. So, yeah. But I do agree. I mean, just me personally, I think a funding formula, having a conversation, taking a look at that would be very beneficial.
And just to make sure we're all on the same page, are we saying, because I think council's open to having that discussion, if we do want to move that way, we would do it not for this cycle, but for next year? Or are you saying that you would like to take a look at it this year? Because I don't know how long that would take Sabrina and everybody.
I would like to roll up our sleeves and at
We
least
could do it
try.
this year.
The sooner we start, it doesn't get any easier, right? The sooner we start, the
We
better.
have a little bit of a head start in just talking about it with some of our peer communities, and I think we have some models, and I think we can get some help, and I'd like to take it on. And,
I would too. I agree.
Yeah, the
And you'd be
sentiment
willing to
shared.
come to a work session to share more?
So that we can learn.
So, in terms of moving forward, what I would propose is that the city staff and the school staff get together with whomever may also have an interest in this process. It could be school board members or city council members. We have a finance committee that could actively take up this discussion as well. But we have some early conversations and try to develop an approach. And then when people feel comfortable that we have a winning formula, we can share it with both parties to get some recognition and alignment that the formula truly does accomplish what we hope it will, which is to provide some prediction, some reliable prediction of what you can expect when revenues are good. These are general fund tax revenues that come in that would be shared, and perhaps even a floor when revenues are not so good. I think the idea here is what can we do on both sides to make the funding discussion more predictable and manageable. And maybe the funding formula is a winner, but maybe not. But let's try it.
I agree. I think it takes the politics out of it, and it's just a formula. It's math, right? It's just math. So.
I did have a quick question, and this is because this is my first budget year that we're going through. Seeing that we're pushing things up, will the needs of the division be known by this time?
Well, I think that Mr. Archer is wanting us to be able to push it up. I'm not sure, as Mr. Brown said, whether we would be able to, because we won't know from the state what our funds are.
Okay.
So I think that we will be prepared in terms of what we know that we need, but the question would be how much money are we going to receive from the state that we may not know at that time.
Mr. Mayor, one.
Councilman.
So you mentioned about two things. One was the 1% construction tax. That would be required a referendum, though.
Correct. Yes. Before you did the school construction, it gets put to the voters, which I think is the fairest thing. But it needs to pass this.
Would it be school board bring that to the question?
Yes.
Okay.
I think the way that I don't know if Jerry can speak to it, but the way that I read it was city council is entirely out of it. This is the school board building schools until the school board requests. But first it has to be passed at the state level, is my understanding. And it's a long session, so I think a lot will get passed this time. And I know we're doing like our letter of support and whatever we need to do to talk to our local delegation, but I think everyone, minus one, was on board. And we'll see if they're on in November.
Right.
Yeah.
It changes when the session starts.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see.
Okay. Mr. Hunter?
I'll leave my comments later.
Ms. Alves?
Yeah, we first want to thank everyone because of the support, and one of the questions that I constantly hear is, what is it that we can do to support our schools? So I invited our colleagues to kind of share a little bit, just briefly, real quick, because I know time is coming up, but if we can share some of our reflections.
You want to start with me? Okay. So yeah, we already mentioned the revenue sharing. I was going to mention that. I think that is really a great path forward. We talk a lot about being more strategic and being longer term focused and being less tactical. I think the revenue formula gets us to that vantage point of being able to, okay, we're going to plan years out because we know this is what we're getting and there's going to be a lot of back and forth. So I think that the revenue formula, it lends itself to that, us being more strategic, but as both bodies, right? And then we've talked about our needs in transportation, how We are short of our requisite number of drivers and have that put a strain on our division. Some of the things that we've done is increase the walking distance. Well, one of the things that I think that the city can really help us with in terms of facilitating better walking distances is looking at sidewalks in select locations. And I did ask the superintendent to give the city manager a list of strategic locations where that would help benefit us the most by policy of allowing us to extend from, say, 0.4 miles to like a half a mile or 0.6 miles in terms of walking distance, safe walking distance to a bus stop. So sidewalks, and I think that in terms of capital needs, right, that is a lower cost relative to other projects. So hopefully that's something that the city can really look at and help us with, because that would help us and also help the community in terms of after when school is out, having more joggers and walkers and people walking on the street and just enjoying the city, right?
Another particular topic that's been prevalent and coming up is the topic of vapes. In a recent work session, I believe we were discussing safety in some regard, and the fact of the matter is that our top contraband in schools are vapes. So in looking at the data and the impact of the usage of vapes amongst our students, some of the pieces that kind of bring about some concern, of course, is the addiction factor, the high addiction probability, and how easy it is to become addicted to vapes. The second is hospitalizations that come as a direct reflection of the usage, and then of course the unknown substances that are found in the vapes, that the combinations can cause overdose, they can cause death, and those types of things. So we've as a North District, we've recently had in one of our monthly meetings discussion around collaborative efforts on how to get the message out and to educate students around the dangers of vaping and how to protect themselves from that. So we've talked about social media and working with the communications department and putting together something collaboratively. So I just wanted to kind of bring that to the forefront.
I think that's the easiest one, and I think Councilman Coleman can talk more about it, but we're going to move on that tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. That's a great suggestion. We have had some really serious conversations about vape shops, regulations, the dangers, especially for our youth, and the access and the proximity to community centers, to schools, to child development centers. But our Public Safety Committee had a very lively discussion about it last week, and Ms. Alger was there. And we were talking about how we can work together, not only when it comes to the ordinance itself, but also how our communication teams can come together and talk about the dangers of vaping, especially for young people in their development. Because personally, I've had a family come to me and their son, who was chronically using vape products, has committed suicide, and they believe that it added to his psychosis. And it wasn't the traditional vape products that were being sold at this particular site. So we're looking at this very closely, and I appreciate you bringing it up.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Mr. Hunter.
Okay, good evening. I'm glad that we're here. My talk is going to be on strengthening partnerships. That's kind of what I do for a living. As you heard earlier, the superintendent said there were 444 partners in the city. Thanks to City Council, and I think I saw Chief Drew back here, that our crime rate has gone down because we've got partners. So one of the things this board has agreed upon is that what we are going to attend as many of these community group meetings, as long as we continue to be invited. All right, this is going to help us with the collaboration, as we talked about today. That collaboration, I love it when we're talking about sharing, revenue sharing. That's something that I believe that will involve once it's out, will involve other things related to school that I think the community would like. When the community is involved with the school, and they see that the city council and the school are actually collaborating together there, I think that's for a win-win for our city. So strengthening our partnership between the city council and all the 444 groups out here I think that's going to be a win-win for both.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Alva.
Yes. I have a statement from Ms. Searles Law. As we look ahead, I want to encourage the continued spirit of collaboration through the liaison meetings and open communication. These connections allow us not only to solve challenges more effectively, but also to create new opportunities for our students. Together, we are showing what it means to be one city, a community united in support of education and the future for our young people. So it's really reinforcing our commitment in terms of collaboration. We are here, and we thank you for joining us in this journey.
Mr. Mayor, any other comments or questions?
I think council is good unless anyone wants to say anything. I'll turn it over to you to gavel us out, ma'am.
Okay. And I too would like to thank the City Council for coming together with us, working together, doing what's best for our children, which is doing what's best for our city. And with all hearts and minds clear, this meeting is adjourned.
There it is. And then for City Council, we're gonna take let's take 5 minutes, and then we'll gavel back in. Thank you. It'll be very, very brief. Sorry, it'll be very brief. I just need 1, 2, 3. I'm just going to gavel us back in for the September 23rd Newport News City Council work session. I know we only have one topic in closed meeting, so why don't we just go to comments, ideas, and suggestions, and then we'll go into close. I'll start on that side and just go around. Councilman Vic.
Nothing.
Okay, I just have one item. I have you got one? Okay, got you. Fiscal year 2026, I have a council contingency request for the Alzheimer's Association. It's $5,000 for the support of like the police and of their path. I have all the signatures. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. At this time, please call the roll.
Councilman Coleman? 4. Councilman Harris?
4.
Mayor Jones?
4.
Councilman Long?
4.
Councilwoman Vick? Vice Mayor Bethany?
4.
Motion carried, 6-0.
Alan.
I'm pleased to share some exciting news with you tonight. The City of Newport News has been recognized nationally as a top performer in the 2025 Best in Governance Awards. This honor was awarded in the category of Trust Through Transparency, which came out of the work and the engagement that the city staff and this council supported as we developed the budget process last year, as well as the community survey process. And this award is especially meaningful because it's based on the voice of the people. Out of hundreds of communities across the country, only 5 are recognized in each category, and Newport News is among them. This award is a testament to the leadership of the city, the hard work of our staff, and most importantly, the trust and engagement of our residents and the support of this council. Together, we're building a stronger, more livable community, and I'm proud that Newport News is being recognized on the national stage for this work. I also want to recognize the dedication of staff across the entire organization whose hard work makes recognition like this possible. In particular, I want to highlight Marlon McDaniel, members of our I-team, the budget team. Their expertise has been critical in turning data and resident feedback into real, measurable outcomes for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a proud round of applause for staff. Councilman Long.
I think I have 2 items, and both relate to the budget. We just finished the homeless study, and I know we've talked about over the last year that we spent $5 to $8 million in homeless resources. But I'm hoping that when you're preparing the budget, we can reallocate some of those dollars and in line more with the study which they talked about lack of affordable housing. I know we got the SHIP plan. We're trying to increase housing supply. And talked about survivors of domestic abuse. I know we have nonprofits that are available to help with that assistance. And then the other thing was loss of employment. So workforce development, I know we're talking about this new reimagining the Brooks Crossing. I know there's reentry programs. There's a lot of different programs out there that we can really start looking at reallocating how the resources look and sort of roll back some of these day service programs that we have here in the city. I think we could be more in line with the study is speaking about. So just kind of flagging that and hopes that we can start talking through this during this budget cycle. And the second thing is the litter, trash abatement, making sure resources available. I know I've had complaints about commercial properties having excess trash. And my understanding is abatement process is more of the way to prevent it from happening versus trying to raise fines and fees. I know we're talking about legislative session. So those are just 2 items that as we start looking at the budget process, how do we make sure we have resources or reallocation of resources.
Thank you for your guidance on both of those matters, and they will be considered.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Harris.
I don't have anything.
Okay, then we'll go into closed session. Councilman Long.
I move pursuant to Section 2.2, TAC 3711A of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended, subsection 6, that council hold a closed meeting for the purpose of a discussion on consideration of the involvement of public funds where competition or bargaining is involved, where if made public initially, the financial interests of the governmental unit would be adversely affected, the subject which is the potential investment of public funds in support of the Peninsula Airport Commission.
Moved and seconded. Call the roll.
Councilman Coleman? Councilman Harris?
4.
Mayor Jones?
4.
Councilman Long?
4.
Councilwoman Vick? Vice Mayor Bethany?
4.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you. We'll do closed session. good on the mic? Good? Okay. Councilman Long.
I move that members of council certify that to the best of each member's knowledge, one, only public business matters are lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and two, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting by the council.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilman Coleman,
4.
Councilman Harris,
4.
Mayor Jones,
4.
Councilman Long,
4.
Councilwoman Vick,
4.
Vice Mayor Bethany.
4.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you. We stand adjourned.